Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Transformational Tuesdays with Tasha. I am your host, Tasha M. Scott, and I am super excited about being here with you tonight as we dig deep into this book, Atomic Habits. Before I get started and dive all the way in, I want to just ask you if you will post in the comments your name and where you are watching me from. And then will you also do me another favor? Will you share this? If you are on YouTube, if you're on LinkedIn, if you are on Facebook watching me, let me know and then share this out to other people because we're going to dig deeper tonight in this topic of atomic habits. And y'all, when I was preparing for this was life-changing information, and I'm super excited about what we're going to uncover and discuss with each other tonight. Natasha Graham, thank you so much for tuning in on Facebook in Wetumpka. So good to see you tonight. Again, if you're watching on any of those platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, I'm sorry, not Instagram, Facebook, share this out. Share this with somebody who you know is right now working on their personal growth and development. And don't forget to subscribe to the channels because we're going to be coming on here every Tuesday at 7 o'clock to dig deeper into this book, Atomic Habits. Last week, if you joined me last week, we were talking about the 1% improvement. How many of y'all actually took that and literally applied it to your week, where you literally focused on the small changes that were needed, not the big things, but the 1% improvement? I'm telling y'all, this was really good for me as well. And today we're going to dig into chapter 2 of Atomic Habits, and we're going to be talking about the surprising power of atomic habits. And if you're following along, what I mentioned is that every week we're going to focus on one chapter. I figured it was easier to kind of just take the scenic route through the book instead of just trying to cram all the information in at one time. And so we're going to go through one chapter. So tonight is chapter 2, The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. So the first thing that he says in here, James Clear, the author, he says that changing our habits is challenging for two reasons. He said, one, we are so busy focused on trying to change the wrong thing, or he said, we try to change our habits the wrong way. And for tonight, we're going to focus on that first one. How many of you all have tried to change a habit and gotten frustrated in the process because you started off with great intentions? Things were going great. And then next thing you know, you're right back at square one, it feels like. But what he's talking to us about tonight is we don't need to fall into this rut anymore of trying to change the wrong thing. If anything, what he talks about is there's layers to this. It's like peeling an onion back. So the first layer, when it comes to change, especially around habits, he said the first layer that we really focus on is changing our outcomes. And he said that's where we're focused on changing our results. It could be something as simple as I want to lose weight, or I want to write a book, or I want to win at something. Those are about results, and those are changing our outcomes. That's the first layer. But the second layer, he talks about changing our process. And he says here, changing our process, which we talked about this last week, was about changing our habits and our systems. That's where we talk about implementing a new routine. We talk about decluttering, different things like that to develop. We create a system around our habits, and it's not a bad thing, but it's a layer. But the real layer that we want to get to is this third layer, and that is about changing our identity. Have you ever heard that before? That if you want to change a habit, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to change the outcomes, to want to change your results. It's not a bad thing to want to change your systems. We talked about that. But more importantly, the deepest layer that we want to get to is changing our identity. Because when we focus on identity, what we're really talking about is our belief system. It's about our believing who we are concerning our self-image, our judgments, any belief that we have about ourselves. Those literally are about our belief system. And when we have limiting belief system, guess what, y'all? We have poor habits. Think about that for a minute. And so that's why he said a lot of times we're focused on changing the wrong thing. Anybody been guilty of that? Where you focused on the first two and completely just ignored who you're becoming in the process? That's where we want to hone in tonight. And so Mr. Clear says our outcomes are about what you get, processes are about what you do, but our identity, that is about what we believe. Natasha, I'm going to say me too, because when I read this chapter, I was like, OMG. Like I've been focused on the wrong thing. I've been focused on maybe the external things or busy trying to get a system in place that sometimes I forget it's about who. It's not the what, it's not the how, it's the who. Who am I becoming in the process? And so he says that really the problem is the direction that we're trying to change. And we can have these outcome based habits, which most people really begin the process of changing their habits on what they want to achieve. I mean, right, think about it. We say, I want to achieve this goal, I want to achieve that goal. But identity based habits are always about who we want to become. And I'll give you another example with a smoker. You can have two separate people who have a different perspective on this. And this is outcome based versus identity based. So one person can say, no, thanks, I'm trying to quit smoking. This person has the belief that they're still a smoker. But the second person who's focused on identity based habits says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. Do you see the difference? That person no longer identifies themselves as a smoker. Which one do you think is more powerful? Natasha says, so true, so focused on external that I don't even think about the internal. Yeah, yeah. And so think about that. If it's more about our identity, then really what has to happen, y'all, is we have to change the direction of our focus when it comes to our habits. So he says most people don't even consider identity change when they set out to improve. They set goals, determine the actions, what they want to achieve, without even considering the beliefs that drive their actions. This is deep, y'all. This is so much deeper than what we realize. He says people sometimes never even shift the way that they look at themselves because we can be so focused on the external factors that we completely ignore. This is an inside out job. And he also gives an example about beliefs and assumptions. He says those are the things that really shape our system. You know, last week we talked about the 1% improvement that's necessary. It's 1% improvement that is necessary to create stronger or bigger habits. And he talked about the importance of having systems in place, and we do. But more important than anything, y'all, it's about our identity, because the identity that we have behind the habits, that's what's going to bring us long lasting success and results. For example, he says you may be the kind of person where you say, I want more money. But if your identity is someone who consumes rather than creates, guess what? You'll spend more than you earn because your identity, AKA your beliefs, don't match with the results that you desire. Or you may say, I want better health. But if you continue to prioritize comfort over accomplishment, then you'll be drawn to relaxing or vegging out on TV more than you will about trying to take a walk or eat right or get in shape. Do y'all see the difference? So he said it's hard to change your habits if you never change the underlying beliefs that led to your past behavior. You can have a new goal and a new plan, but if you haven't changed who you are, you will always revert back to bad habits. Just got to pause right there so that that can sink in. We can have all the goals in the world. We can have all the aspirations in the world. But if we don't change our belief system, y'all, we really are just going to be drawn right back into the old habits, the bad habits, the old patterns, the limiting beliefs. Is this helping somebody right now? It's about our belief system, y'all. Hey, Sandra in South Carolina. Thank you for that. Thank you. So he gave another example in this chapter about a gentleman named Brian Clark. And Mr. Clark had a problem biting his fingernails. And when he would try to change, he would try to muster up all the willpower he could, he still reverted back to biting his nails. And so finally one day, Mr. Clark he said to his wife, I'm going to make an appointment and go get my nails done. So he went and got a professional manicure. And what started happening is he started noticing how healthy, how good his and attractive his nails started looking. And so that actually was the inspiration that he needed, because when he started seeing the attractive fingernails, all of a sudden he didn't want to bite his nails anymore because he took pride in his identity. There was a stronger motivation in play. That's why willpower alone is not going to be enough. That's why who we are becoming in the process is so much more crucial. And he said, no, I had a note here. When I read that about Mr. Clark, I had a note here and I was thinking about a time that I had a bad habit. There was something that I was doing and I reached out to an older woman who was a mentor. And she said to me, she said, Tasha, she said, I'm not concerned about that. This is what she told me. She said, when you understand who you are, when you build confidence in yourself, that thing won't even be an issue anymore. And she was right. She was so right. I was reverting to bad habits because I didn't have the belief in who I was to sustain anything else. Hey, Tracy, great to see you on here. And so our belief system, it's pretty powerful, y'all. And it's not the the external or the outward things that are the biggest catalyst for our motivators. It's what's in us. He calls it intrinsic motivation. And he said the habit has to become a part of your identity if you're going to be successful. If you're going to experience atomic habits, it has to be connected to who you are, right? And he said it's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. And most of us, we don't have any problems whatsoever naming a goal. Most of us. Some of us struggle in other ways with that, but most of us don't have any problem saying, this is what I want, you know? And some of y'all are thinking, but I do have a problem. It's not across the board, I promise you, because there are some things that you want. You don't have any problem saying them. I think what trips us up is when we start comparing ourselves to other people's goals and then we think we have problems. But I guarantee you, there are things in your life that you want, no matter how big or how small, you don't have a problem saying, well, this is what I want. The difference is when you want to become a person who you start experiencing the intrinsic motivation that he's talking about, is you start saying, I'm the type of person who this is. I'm the type of person who looks like this, who acts like this, who thinks like that. And when we can really identify with who we are, when we can really get into the inside to the core of who we are, there will be some habits that will automatically fall off, because the bad habits, the toxic habits, the limiting belief habits, they won't align with who we are anymore. They won't align with where we're going. So some of y'all have been so focused on, I got to change this, I got to change that, I got to break this. It's not about willpower. It's not about the external. It's about believing in who you are. It's about belief in who you are. I got to say it again. Who do you believe you are? Because whoever that person is, that man or that woman, guess what? Your habits should support who you are and who you're becoming. I'm going to check the chat here and just ask, is this resonating with anyone? Is this an aha for anyone right now? Is this helping you to understand that maybe, just maybe, certain things that we've been desiring change for had nothing to do with goal setting or anything like that? Maybe, just maybe, we need to look in the mirror or look internal and make a decision. of who we want to be. And I'm going to take a detour here because I had a coaching session with one of my coaches. And one of the things that he said, Tasha, he said, you don't have a fear issue. This is because a lot of times we revert back to, oh, I'm afraid, I'm scared. What if this happens? What if that happens? He said, no, ma'am. He said, you don't have a fear issue. He said, because some of the things that you're doing, people that are afraid wouldn't do. He said, the confusion that you're experiencing is you have a lack of clarity. And he said, the lack of clarity is in who you are, basically. It's the self-image, right? And he said, so a lot of times we blame it on fear, but it's not about fear. It's about our identity, y'all. He gave me an illustration. He said, he walked me through this exercise and he said, what's the color of your refrigerator? And I immediately was like, it's this. Where is it in your kitchen? It's right here. Is it next to this? No, it's over here. I didn't hesitate on describing it. I knew exactly where it was. I knew what color it was. I could describe it to the T without hesitation. And he said, the reason why you could do that is because you had clarity. And when we don't have clarity, y'all, we have confusion. And so a lot of us right now, there are things that we're just unclear about because we're unclear about who we are. And we've allowed external factors to really speak to us and tell us who we perceive to be. But I'm challenging you tonight to look inside, and literally ask yourself, who do I want to be? Because maybe the person that you desire to be, maybe that person's not there yet. And guess what, y'all? You get to build that image for who you want to be. So when we think about it from that standpoint, true behavior change is really identity change. That's what we're looking at. That's the bigger picture. That's the real story here. And he said, he said, you might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you'll stick with it is because it becomes a part of your identity. When I understand who we are, nobody has to talk us into anything or talk us out of anything. Remember what I said, the mentor said to me? She said, Tasha, when you know who you are, I'm not even worried about this. This is going to fall off. You're not even going to have to, that's not even going to be a struggle or thought or anything when you know who you are. And so many times, y'all, we've been looking in the wrong places. And he says here, improvements are only temporary until they become a part of who you are. If we want to have atomic habits, we've got to understand what we're really after. And he gave some illustrations, right? He said the goal is not just to read a book. How many times do we say, this year I'm going to read so many books? He said the goal is become a reader. Do you get it? So the reading the books is the what or the how. Becoming a reader is the who. He said the goal is not just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. The goal is not to learn an instrument, it's to become a musician. There's a big difference. The goal is not to just whatever it is. The goal is, I always said this, to become confidence, to become clear, whatever that looks like for you. Your behaviors are a reflection of your identity. And sometimes we don't have procrastination issues, we have identity issues. Let me repeat that again. Sometimes we don't have procrastination issues, we have identity issues. When working for you, identity change can be a powerful force for self-improvement. When working against you, identity change can be a curse. So I want you to think right now, what is it? Like I use illustrations about nail biting. That's a really simple one. But right now, I want you to get honest with you and you. Is there something, and I have my thing too. So I'm not sitting here saying I've arrived. I'm saying I'm a work in progress too. So what is it that you need to stop running from, stop hiding, stop making excuses, and literally say to yourself, you know what? Let me be honest about this, number one. Let me be honest. This is a habit. It's a bad habit. Let me be honest about it. But then on the other side of this, I want you to ask yourself, is this habit supporting the person that I want to be? Is this habit supporting it, or is it taking me away from? And guess what, my friends? You get to decide. You get to decide. And he talked about it's a two-step process to changing your identity. He said the first one is make a decision about the type of person that you want to be. It really is as simple as you changing your minds, renewing your minds about who you want to be, regardless of where you are, whether you are an individual business owner, you are an employee you're part of a team, you're in the community, or wherever you are. The answer is decide, make a decision. Who do you want to be? And when you think about who you want to be, what are the principles and values that you stand for? This person that you want to become, even if it's not who you are right now, the image that you want to build, what kind of values, what kind of principles does this person stand for? What does a confident you look like? What does a whole you look like? What if you were to become this? What does a healthy you look like? Because whatever that is, guess what? The habits that you create have to fuel that person. So what does a healthy you look like? Fill in the blank. Is it a person who drinks their water? A person who exercises, a person who monitors their stress level, a person who sleeps, a person, who has healthy boundaries. What does a healthy you look like? What does a confident you look like? These are things that I'm literally journaling in my own journal every day. Is this supporting me, this habit that I have, or is it taking me away? I love what Sandra put here. She said, old thought habit equals I don't deserve, fill in the blank. She says, a growth point is I deserve all God has for me. That is so powerful, Sandra, because that speaks to our belief system. Do we believe that we're even worthy of God's promises? Do we believe that we're worthy, or that, whatever? I love that you said that. That's powerful. Number two, so number one, I said you've got to decide. How do you change your identity? How do you begin this process? Is you make a decision. Number two is you prove it to yourself with small wins. That's where atomic habits come in, y'all. You prove it to yourself. And notice I said yourself. You don't have to prove this to anyone else. You don't have to literally, I'm going to say it again, just like I said it. You don't have to prove this to anyone else. I'm learning for myself in this season that a confident Tasha is confident from the inside out. When I'm confident, I attract more positive, more life-giving things, because that's who I want to be. I want more of that. And so he said, prove it to yourself with small wins. Begin to take small steps to reinforce your desired identity. Remember, I said, what does a healthy you look like? What does a healthy you talk like? How does a healthy you show up? How do you communicate? How do you dress? Like, what does healthy look like? And every day you're making that 1% improvement to become that version of you. It's not overnight, and it's not all at once. What does a confident you look like? And then here's the ultimate question. Are you becoming the type of person that you want to become? If you have listened to me tonight and you said, you know what, Tasha, I've placed more focus on external factors than I can count. I have given all my power away. I have based all of everything about me on external things. I have put my happiness off because I've said when I become this or when I do that. And I have not literally just looked at myself and accepted myself. If that's you, I just want to give you some hope tonight. that the fact that you showed up, whether you're watching me right now live or you're watching the replay, the fact that you showed up tonight, that's a step. And that's all we can do, y'all, is take a step. And the next step that I want to challenge you within the next 24 hours, I want you to, I went to the Dollar Tree and got journals from the Dollar Tree, y'all, and literally have journals where I'm writing out certain things. I'm writing out my thoughts. I'm describing this person in first person of who I want to become. I challenge you to in some way connect with you, because at the end of the day, when you can do that, the habits or the person that you're going to become, that you want to become, your desired identity, guess what? The habits that you develop, you'll be able to really understand in a moment. You'll be able to say, okay, nope, that's not who I want to be. That's not supporting where I'm going. So I don't want to do that anymore. Like the person who is a smoker, you don't even associate with the identity of that person who had the limiting belief, who was confused, who wasn't clear, right? And again, this is not about trying to do everything at one time. It's about making the 1% improvements. So, what can you do to prove to yourself with small wins? That's how you change your identity. I'm going to repeat that. Decide the type of person that you want to be, and then prove it to yourself with small wins. And he says here, the first step, and I said it already, it's not in what you do, it's not in how you do it. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, let me decide who I want to be so I can do, no, just decide, y'all. Once you make the decision, the how will come, the what will come. You have the power to change your beliefs about yourself. It starts right here first. You've got that power. And here's the thing, your identity is not set in stone. So at any point in time, you have a choice. In every moment, you have a choice. And he says, ultimately, your habits matter because they help become the type of person you wish to be. They are the channel. That's the whole point, y'all, about atomic habits. Our habits are the channels through which we develop our deepest beliefs about ourselves. We can tell a lot about each other by how we show up. Our habits tell the story. And so, my friends, I am going to conclude this right now by just sharing this one point. You become your habits. But also know this, you are more in control than you realize. So I hope that this helped you tonight. Again, if this benefited you, help me spread the word, y'all. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it. If you're on LinkedIn, share this video. Subscribe to Maximize Now across the board. If you're watching this on Facebook, same thing. Subscribe to Maximize Now. Share this out, okay? Help me get the word out. We're going to go through one chapter a week, Transformational Tuesdays at 2. I'm sorry, I'm going to work at 2 o'clock, 7 o'clock. We're going to go through at 7 o'clock p.m. every Tuesday, and we're going to grow y'all one step at a time, one day at a time. But it won't be the outside things that make the bigger difference. It's going to be about what's happening on the inside of us. Next week, we're going to be focused on chapter 3, and we're going to be talking about how to build habits in 4 simple steps. Because remember, I said at the beginning of this, he talked about how changing habits can be challenging. He said we try to change the wrong thing, and we spent the night talking about that. So from here on out, he's going to be talking about how to change that so that we can now begin to establish positive, healthy habits the right way. So thank y'all so much. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Tracy. Thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. And I will see y'all again next Tuesday for Transformational Tuesdays with Tasha right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Maximize Now. Take care. And at the end of the day, y'all, do what I said. Write out the vision of who you want to become. And at the end of the day, let your habits guide you to more towards that than away from it. All right, y'all take care. Bye.